Hello and welcome to Find Computer Room. If you've been anxiously chattering away at your teeth for the past few weeks thinking, when will Find Computer Room talk about The Last of Us Part 2? They're the biggest Last of Us fans I know. What do they think? I have great news for you.
Here it
we
is.
read the spoilers on 4chan and we're here to talk about the game. No, we played it. Hi, I'm Mykonos fan. With me is Smoothies.
Hi, it's me. I'm Mykonos fan.
And here with us, because he's chained up, is Games Enlisted.
I've never played the game. I just want to hear the hashtag discourse.
Steven and I are going to be ripping each other's throats. For the sake of our, at least my scattered brainness, I think I'm just going to invoke we're going to openly talk about spoilers for both games immediately, just in case.
Oh, are we? You don't want to do a spoiler-free section, or?
We can.
I honestly don't care.
I don't either. I feel like at this point, it's been out for a few weeks. Like, if you need us to tell you in non-spoiler terms if you should play it, I guess yes, play it.
You can go somewhere else for that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, considering how everybody's been feeling, I don't even know if I should play the game or not, because it's like, I turn one side, people are like, this is amazing, one of the best games ever, and then I look to the other side, and it's like, it's a piece of shit. And I'm like...
It's not... It's neither. It's a really good game, but it's not a fucking masterpiece.
That's what I would say, yes.
Yeah. It's not horrible, and it's not perfect. Like, nothing really is, ever.
Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, this game got caught in the crosshairs of, I guess as you put it, Stefan, discourse, but it fucking nuclear exploded to the point that, like, even trying to talk about this, you have to give, like, 30 qualifiers when talking about it.
It reminds me of what happened last year with Death Stranding, only much, much worse.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point of reference. Because I feel like with that game also, I'd say that might be more of like a polarizing game, but that's very much a thing where some people were like, this is the next level masterpiece, and some people were like, you couldn't pay me to play this boring garbage nonsense. And I think kind of like with that game, I played it and I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
Right.
So it's kind of where I came out of this one, because I guess to establish our Last of Us history, I played the first game. I got it when I got a PS4, the remastered version in 2014. And I tried like once a year or so over the years to finish it, and it just never clicked with me. Click. It's funny because anyway. But late last year, like all this time, I've gone not spoiled on the ending, and all I've ever heard was that the ending was great. And I was like, you know what? I've gotten this far. We're probably getting to the point where people are just going to talk about the ending of this game. I'm just going to make a fucking push through and play it. And I appreciated it a lot more this last time through the first game. I found the characters and story more interesting than the gameplay. And I kind of walked away from that one going like, that was good. I'm glad I finally finished that. The ending was really, I don't want to blow smoke up its ass too much. It felt kind of bold in an interesting way. I was like, oh, that's just how they're going to fucking mic drop this game. Okay, cool. By then I knew there was a sequel coming, so it wasn't as impactful. But, I was like, that's a really interesting way to do this in 2013 and not follow it up for 7 years. Steven, what did you think of the first game? Because I think I know, but I don't think I know.
I played it in 2013. I played it like almost immediately after it came out, because at the E3 showing, oh boy, was the AI way smarter in the E3 showing than it actually was in the game. The AI in The Last of Us is pretty fucking stupid. But
even putting aside like the partner character running around in front of enemies all the time thing, it's pretty stupid even aside from that.
Yeah. Nobody can see your partner. The AI,
yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so I was really impressed with what I saw, so I decided to play it, and I was like, oh, well, this game is fine, but the story is really good. And so, I mean, what's the average between fine and really good? Positive. It's a positive experience. So
yeah.
I became a fan of it, and I waited 7 years for a sequel. You did not, though.
Yeah.
So.
Did you Did you want a sequel? Like, did you finish that first game and think like, I got to see what happens next? Or
Oh, actually, that's so weird that I said I waited 7 years. I waited 7 years, and then
one
said,
surfaced.
here's a sequel, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so no, I don't feel like it needed a sequel. That's how I feel about Incredibles, and then Incredibles 2 came out, and I'm like, this is nowhere near as good, and it was unnecessary. Except, wait, that's not how I feel about the second game. Wait, that's a bad comparison.
Yeah, it was really weird in Incredibles 2 when 30 minutes in it switched over to Syndrome's daughter. I didn't really get that, but...
Oh, I didn't get your joke.
Oh, the joke was that in the sequel, you switch and play the daughter of the person who died in the first game.
Right, so The Last of Us.
Yes.
Yeah, so then, I don't know. I'm ready to talk about the second one, if you are, because the second game, is twice the game as The Last of Us 1.
It's literally 2 Last of Us games in one, which I was not expecting as I torturously walked through this like path of glass on the way to the ending. Emotionally, every time I thought this game was about to end, it was like, well, what if there was like 6 more hours? And I was like, what?
Yep. Oh my god, this game just doesn't fucking end, and it feels like it's going to end, and it's like, no, here's Act 7. Okay, here we go.
At a point, characters in the game are begging for it to stop. They're like, please just end it. And then another character will be like, no, I'm going, bye. And you're like, wow, oh, I needed credits. So, where do we start? It's such a big game.
I know, it's really big. Like, so, The Last of Us 2, like I say, it's twice the game. It's twice the story. It's twice the perspective. Like, it's very symbolic on the number 2, and nobody talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get 2 perspectives of this story, and it's like, whoa, that's really cool. Yeah, I like The Last of Us 2. It reminds me a lot of kind of like Undertale in a way. Like,
okay, that's interesting.
Because at the end, have you played Undertale, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so at the end, if you got to the end of Undertale without spoiling yourself, you realize, oh, all these monsters I killed were people. But that happens like halfway through The Last of Us 2. You get halfway through and you say, oh, all these people I killed were people.
Surprise, I did bad things. All right.
But I'm glad that they did that. I don't think that's what they were going for originally, because you go through Ellie's story, and once you're done with Ellie's story, you rewind and you go through Abby's story. But what's weird about it is that when you start Abby's story, you're halfway through the game. You already know how the game works, but it feels like the beginning of Abby's story is teaching you how to play and stuff. And it's like, oh, I don't think they were going to do this originally.
Yeah,
I think these were going to be parallel at first, but I feel like it's way more impactful for it to not be parallel.
Yeah, the game definitely has like a weird pacing issue, and that does make me wonder how much time they spent like with a whiteboard placing like post-it notes around in different orders, trying to figure out how this game should flow, right?
Yeah.
Because like, to back up that point before we circle back to what you said, like, this game, it starts off, and then in the first few hours, Joel gets like fucking hit in the head with a golf club, haha. And then from there, there's like this huge impetus like for Ellie and for the player, depending on if you like Joel, to be like, all right, well, we gotta go fucking kick the shit out of these guys. And then you get to Seattle, and then you can just like fuck off for basically 6 hours if you want, which is a weird pacing thing. I really liked it as a gameplay thing, but as a like story thing, I was like, is this really how you need to spend this time? I'm going to do it because I want the things in these buildings and I want to poke around.
Right.
But it seemed to conflict like narratively. You know, that's like one of those weird intersections between gameplay and story where I was like, this is working really well on one end, but it's totally not on the other.
Yep.
Yeah, so...
Can we finish? Can I add to your point before you circle back to my previous point? I don't even remember what my previous point was.
That's fine. Please do. We'll figure it out.
To add to this current point that we're on, people had like a really big point of contention between the gameplay and the storytelling, and the fact that you have to do things that you don't necessarily agree with what your character's motivations are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some reason, people are bothered by that, but I'm totally fine with doing that. Like, there are moments where Ellie is doing things that totally match her motivation. So, like, I'm fine with going through the actions myself. But, like, a lot of people had an issue with that, like a big disconnect. I was totally fine with it.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't agree with, for example, Nora in the hospital. Ellie basically goes up and, like, beats her in the fucking head with whatever blunt object she has for information, right? About where Abby is.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that, but I did it, and, like, I understood it, right? It's the same thing with, like killing the dogs in the game. Like, you can try to sneak through the game and not kill anyone other than the one you have to kill, which that's the whole thing. But, like, to me in that moment, it's like, okay, well, it makes sense to kill this dog, because if I don't, the dog's going to let the people know where I am, and then I die. So, kill the dog, right? Didn't feel great, but I was like, well, just fucking get rid of the dogs.
As someone,
makes it a lot easier.
As someone from the outside, based on seeing people's seeing people's reactions, the way they make it sound is that they're like, the game's like, oh, you're not supposed to do this, but we're gonna make you do it anyway. And then when you do it, they're like, tisk tisk tisk, you shouldn't have done this. You are the problem.
That's not what the game
does.
I
don't know. Yeah, I don't know how, that's how the game, but that's pretty much all of the reactions I've seen. That's what people are upset about.
Yeah.
The wrinkle to that I will say at least gives the other point a little credence, is that the game's director at one point said, like, you don't have to kill any dogs in the game if you don't want to. And I think he was referring to the gameplay side. But there is a point where...
in the story.
Yeah, like, there's a player input, but it's more of like a cutscene thing where you do kill a dog.
It's a quick time event.
Yeah.
You have to kill a dog.
Yeah, then you switch to the other player's perspective, the other character, and, like, you rent that dog out from, like, a pound, and, like, you can play fetch with it and throw the ball. Yeah. I never saw a point where the game passed judgment onto me for the thing the game made me do there.
It wasn't passing judgment on you, though. That was Ellie's decision. It's just that the game made you move her hand. You know?
And a lot of the talk I've seen is that people are being like, oh, the game's judging you and the game's telling you this is bad after making you do bad things. I'm like,
no, it is not.
I didn't see any point where the game presented that. You know, I think that's people clouding their own perception of what's bad. And hey, it's bad, you know, don't get me wrong. But they're clouding that and, like, projecting it onto the game for some reason, which is really weird to me.
The point of the game, the point of the story of the game is anti-war and anti-hate. And it just shows what the downfall of hatred is. So if you felt bad about what was happening, good. The story is about why hatred leads to hell on earth. So, yeah, you got the point, sort of, but your brain didn't.
Yeah, and that's something I don't think the game's gotten enough credit for in its story, is that it's basically just all about cycles, and, like, you're playing two characters with a lot of incredibly direct parallels that don't feel obvious until you think about it, but they're on two entirely different points of the path. Like, when you pick up Ellie in this game, you're basically, you know, Abby. I haven't said this out loud, so it's hard to materialize, but you know what I mean. Like, there's points where things match up, but these characters get to these points much later, right? Like, Ellie at the end of this game is basically where Abby is at the start of the game, in the terms of, I'm at the thing where I can get the soul thing I've been chasing for, and I do it, and it didn't make me feel any better, and now life goes on. So for Abby, she's in the life goes on part, but Ellie's in the, I gotta find and destroy this person who took, you know, for Ellie, it's not so much like everything she had, but for Abby, like, this is her loving dad who saves America's lone zebra from dying. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, Ellie has a partner that kind of parallels with Abby's partner, where they're like a force of good in their life and trying to wean them off this terrible path they're on, and they don't really listen to them, which leads to revenge taking everything from them. I just think, you know, I don't think it's a perfectly framed or conveyed story, but I think there's a lot more thought put into it than a lot of people are giving the game credit for, I guess is how I'd sum that up.
Totally agree.
Like, I think it's very smartly done in a lot of ways.
Me too. Not a masterpiece, but very, very good.
Yes.
What was the point that we were going to circle back to?
Beats the hell out of me, man. Okay, here's a hot take I do want to throw out, though. Because I've been thinking about the first game and how Ellie as like a partner character to Joel was very interesting, and like you get to see their dynamic bud and unfold throughout the first game. I was thinking about how they sort of tried to do that in ways in this game, and I think for like Lev it worked because I was interested in Lev, and I think there was an interesting dynamic between her and Abby. But I think about Dina for the first half of the game. I like Dina a lot as a character, but she is very uninteresting. Do you agree with that? Like, I feel the same way for Jesse. Like, I think Jesse's a very cool, kind of nice character, but when I think about their character and like especially contrast the you're playing alongside this character dynamic of Ellie and Dina versus like Joel and Ellie, it was very flat in a way.
I'll tell you why. Because for The Last of Us 1, we watched the relationship grow.
Yeah.
And when we get to Last of Us 2, these relationships have already grown. So it's kind of like, well, I guess you're in love.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you are. You say you are.
And through the performances, like, I can believe it because we haven't said it, but this game has fantastic performances. Mm-hmm. For me, that paid off near the end where like Dina leaves, and I was like, oh, okay, something happened here finally. But yeah, especially because like that happened. You know, my complaint comes from like nothing really happening with these characters, and you have a lot of time for things to happen because like there is that 6-hour open plot of land you can poke around in near the start, but it's mostly the let's get through a building, okay, we did it dynamic, which is cool. I don't know. I think it would have sucked if she just like fucked off for a bit over like a contrived fight, but I just wish there was something more there. And I was really enjoying this game mechanically for like the first 10 hours, but I was not really engaged with its story once you got to Seattle. And I think the last half of the game really picked it up in both departments. But did you feel that way when you were playing? Like, were you kind of like,
was I weirded out by the pacing?
Or yeah, kind of tuning out, you know, just like what was happening for the most part?
No, I did. Well, technically yes, but only because I beat the whole thing in 3 days because I desperately wanted to see the end of it. So technically yes, I tuned out.
Gotcha.
So I can't really answer that question. Yeah, I'm in the middle of replaying it, so I've played it 1.5 times. Yeah, this game's hard, man. This game is hard. Was it hard for you? Am I a bad gamer? This game's hard.
I'm a bad gamer too. What difficulty are you on?
I played on normal. For my second playthrough, I went on easy. I was like, whatever. I don't care. No shame. I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah, I was on normal. I think for me, I thought the challenge was roughly very finely tuned. There were some parts where I was like, Jesus, what am I even supposed to do here? What is expected of me to do here? But I mostly found a pretty good balance with the game. What confuses me are the people who play it and are like, oh, this is boring. You got to turn this up to crushing difficulty if you want any interesting gameplay. I'm like, what?
Excuse me?
How good at games are you if you're turning this to crushing to feel something?
Good God.
That's the difficulty where I think like you maybe find a bullet once in a while at best, and I'm like, I have fun. That's not for me.
But their reaction times are so high, blinking must last forever.
Yeah. Great question, since you're kind of going through again, especially in the first half. Are you finding interesting things in the story, like foreshadowing from the first half of the game now you've played it again?
Absolutely, and it's kind of like sad in a lot of ways. It's like it's sadder the second time you play it because you already know certain things.
Oh yeah, okay. I can think of what you're probably thinking of. Is that like is that the porch scene with Joel and Ellie giving new light to the beginning for you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Or like the first time you see Mel, it's like, oh yeah, well, I know she's pregnant.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. Right, Mel. I forgot about Mel.
Well, yeah, Mel's pretty forgettable. She's irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt like the pacing was very strange. The dynamic with your characters, you hit the nail on the head there. Like it's we don't get to see that relationship. It's kind of like I feel weird for comparing this to two Marvel movies, but the best part about Iron Man 1 is you get to watch him build the suit. And in the second Iron Man film, you don't watch him build anything. So it's like, oh, he just has a suitcase Iron Man suit now. I guess he did that. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't get to really watch their relationship build. I think it would have been interesting if we saw like a little bit on the way to Seattle, because we're just in Jackson and then we're in Seattle. We don't see any of the journey there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Jesus, this game is already long enough, so...
Yeah, that's... I guess first, to avoid any comments, like, you do see Ellie and Dina kind of accept how they feel, but then once you hit Seattle, it's just like a flat emotional road for a long time. But, like, to that point that I'm forgetting, because I fell asleep before we recorded this. Yeah, okay. The game as a whole, it's very long, right? Like you said. But I've had this thought a lot, and I've been like, okay, well, Mr. Armchair Game Designer, what would you remove? And I think back over the entire game, and I'm like, I don't know that I could cut anything from it, though. Everything feels really important.
There's some blatant filler in this game. You don't remember going over the Sky Bridge as Abby? She gets over her fear of heights. Like, who cares about her fear of heights? I don't give a shit.
I cared. That's such a contrived section. I agree with you. It's like, okay, I'm gonna agree with you. Jesus fucking, like,
we can't cross this river, so like we have to go up a skyscraper and across a fucking crane and then down a skyscraper so we can cross a river?
We gotta go to the Sky Bridge. How did we never know that your people were using these? Wolves don't look up. What? What?
It's a comparison between humans and...
the enlightened religious cult who live in the sky, and the dirty wolves who feed on the bottom and kill each other.
Holy shit, though. I am so happy that this game explored some new things like religion and slavery and shit. I was like, holy shit. You went there and it's fucking... You did it really well. Like, of course, people would resort to doing horrible, evil things like we did in the past. There's no way to govern them anymore. They're going to resort to doing horrible things again. It's fucking bizarre.
It's also interesting to me because, like, those societies are doing terrible things to each other, but they're both relatively, like, established, right? Like, there's a nice, like, farm and, you know, nice houses built on the Seraphites' land, and then the wolves have, like, an entire baseball stadium where they, like, grow crops and hold animals and, like, have, you know, camps and bases and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, I see what you were saying here with this part. And it's kind of blatant, but I get it. They're two established societies doing their best and going to war for no reason other than they think differently. That's one of the things where, like, I might have missed a note, or God forbid this game be longer, but I feel like, you know, maybe I didn't need to know what set off things between those two in the first place, but I kind of would have liked to see it explored a little more.
I think, well, what I gathered from the Seraphites was that at first they were following someone that they called their prophet, and the prophet was teaching about love.
Right.
She at some point had passed away, and I guess the leaders had construed her teachings into ways that would empower themselves, like the Bible.
You can honestly throw a dart at a religious wall and be right with just about anything you hit there.
Exactly. So I imagine at some point, I mean, they saw the epidemic as the downfall of... They blamed this new fungus on the choices that man made in the past, and so they wanted to not use anything from the past. Like they would walk through like this one building and it was like a library or a bookstore or something, and like one of them was like, oh wow, look at it, they wrote so much, and then this other person's like, and none of it was useful, don't read any of it, it will corrupt your mind, like shit like that. And so I imagine like they want nothing to do with the past world, but the wolves very much do, and so they don't see eye to eye and on a lot of topics. So maybe, I don't know, one ended up killing the other. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it needs to be explored more.
One cool thing about this game, though, is that that's a backdrop and doesn't really matter to the main plot, but it is there, and we can think and talk about that thing. This entirely side backdrop to this revenge story, right? Like, I did think those factions were very interesting.
I thought they were cool.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can't tell you. I played this game mostly with headphones on, which I totally recommend if you or anyone listening hasn't. And just like the first time I heard one of them do the whistle thing and shoot you with the bow, and then all the subsequent whistling and like hiding in grass. Yeah, and trying to figure out like, what does that whistle mean? Do they know where I'm at? Oh, that was... It seems very simple to say, hey, the enemies in this game whistle to communicate. But when you're there, you're scared, you have no idea what the fuck is going on, is really effective.
Yeah. Your first encounter with the Seraphites is truly terrifying because
yes.
they are hunting machines.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, holy, I'm gonna die, and I did a lot.
Yeah, that was when I first kind of light roadblocks. Was that first section? I was just like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? Which made overcoming it feel fantastic.
Yeah. Where do you want to go to next? Because I have a few ideas of where we can explore.
I will hear you out.
We have different zombies. We have different undead. They're not undead. Infected.
Yeah,
we have
zombos.
We have shamblers, which I guess is terrifying in its own way. They rush you. And we also have this new horrifying amalgamation of zombie blob thing. I don't even know what to call it. Do you remember the one in the hospital?
Yeah, I still see that one when I close my eyes sometimes.
Yeah, I woke Beck up in the middle of the night just saying, nope, 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 nope.
I feel very differently about those two, since you mentioned both. Because the first one, there were times in this game where there are a couple times where you bump up against bloaters, which are the ones you fight in the high school gymnasium in the first game. Mm-hmm. For like a mini boss fight or whatever. Maybe I was just clouded by fucking tension, but when I first saw a bloater in this game, I was like, oh, there's a shambler, and then it started fighting differently, and I was like, what? Then I remembered, oh right, bloaters, these are not the same thing, even though in my mind they look exactly the same.
They don't look exactly the same.
Yeah, that's probably like my memory playing a trick on me, but meanwhile, that hospital thing, holy shit. But that was a disgusting thing.
Bloaters are not a mini boss now. They are they are so fucking strong in this game. I hate them. I hate them so much. Yeah. But yeah, that giant thing in the hospital is fucking no thanks.
I did have a situation in that boss where the design of the game kind of got in the way of the tension a bit, because you're in that dark room, and it's like, it's not a small room, but there's like walls inside the room, and I thought I was running away from it, but I wasn't, but I couldn't really see what I was doing, so it kept instant killing me, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. After 5 deaths, I figured it out, but it kind of took the tension away to keep dying. It was like, I just can't even see what I'm running into here that's stopping me. Oh, wait, it's a wall. Oh, I'm dead.
Oh,
what did you have?
I had a different experience. I didn't die at all to that boss.
Oh.
I found like a hallway type corridor sort of area that had like a couple of pillars in it. And this thing can it can run through a lot of stuff, but it can't run through the pillars. So I just used those to slow it down and just kept running from one end to the other. I ran from one end to the other of that hallway like for 5 minutes while shooting this thing. Whatever method works, man. Yeah.
Especially against that horrifying fucking beast.
It was a little Resident Evil in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
So it felt kind of out of genre.
It did feel sense. Yeah, And for me, that kind of worked in a what the fuck, holy, I've never seen anything like this in Last of Us kind of way. But once I stopped dying over and over, I forget what weapons I used, but I was basically able to just run a circle around it and just unload basically on it and destroy it very quickly. So that kind of took the tension out. But what I didn't realize, and what wound up scaring me again, there's a point where for Stefan's reference, who's still here, hi, it's like an amalgamation of a bunch of infected into like a big blobby, like disgusting mess. One of them, I don't know if it either becomes sentient or is already sentient. It splits off, and I saw that while I was playing, and I thought, oh god, okay.
Now
but
I just kept that too.
I just kept circling around and shooting, so I was like, I must have got it. So you beat it, and then you're playing as Abby, and she's like, oh fuck it, or whatever. So I start, poking around the room, trying to find all the supplies, and I'm like, okay, I'm good, time to move on. Then I get into the next room, and I think I hear something, and I'm like, what? And then you have like another boss fight out of nowhere with the thing that split off, and maybe you're supposed to know, but I totally missed that it got away, and it scared the fuck out of me. I was I was not in a good place for that. It was, yeah.
Traditionally, that's like against pacing because that's supposed to be like your moment of rest, and then something pops out, and so it's like, what? Oh, damn it! Yeah.
Yeah. And I was running low on ammo by that point, so I had another very tense encounter with this. It's like a stalker, I think is the thing. They got changed up from the first game, but I think it's a stalker.
What's your least favorite enemy in this game that you face a lot of?
I want to say I didn't face a lot of stalkers.
Stalkers are my least favorite enemy. They are the fucking worst.
But they would probably be my least favorite, yes. There's just something about like that slight like noise in your ear of like, okay, did I hear something or did I hear an environmental noise? And then like scanning around the environment trying to see if they're peeking out from a door frame or something. Well, I don't like it.
They're smart now. What's weird is that you cannot sneak past a stalker. You can't. Yeah. Even on easy mode, you can't do it. They always know where you are. In the first game, like you could probably get around them.
Yeah.
But
like I don't even really remember them from the first game. Like they've upped their behavior so much in this game. Like I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But here.
Yeah.
So the game's good. I wanna. You said you had some other points. Do you?
I don't remember, man.
Okay.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
No, it's not related.
Okay. So I'm talking end game here. Like Ellie walks away from Dina end game. How did you feel about? Like, what was your takeaway from the last section of the game? Not so much the ending of the game, but the last gameplay section.
Santa Barbara area? Oh my god. Santa Barbara, part of the story, like, nothing about this game is really mind-blowing except for that part of the game, I would say. Because, like, you start off playing as Abby. Abby gets caught, and then you play as Ellie, who's on the tail of Abby, trying to find Abby. So Ellie's she walks into like this populated area, and like you see like this one zombie, but the zombie is chained up, and you're like, oh, that's fucking weird. And that chained up dude was once a slave to this group of people, and if the people who if the slaves stop working, then they're threatened with being turned into an infected, and it's like, that's fucking evil. Oh my god.
It's super fucked up.
It's super fucked up.
Like, even for this series, it's pretty fucked up.
Like, and I'm sorry, but I love fucked up shit so much. And like, I eat it up. I'm like, wow, you're horrible. Nom nom.
You eat this shit up.
Yeah.
I read that entire section in a very meta way, if you don't mind me going off for a minute or two.
Go for it, man.
Because to me, like, I desperately, like, I was borderline shouting at my TV when Ellie was like, I gotta fucking go. And Dina was like, if you go, I'm gone. And Abby's just like, oh, okay. And then she leaves. But you get to that, and I was like, I do not want to play this game anymore. Like, I just literally don't want this to go on. Like, the game should have ended right there. Credits, happy farm, family. There's fucking sheep. Hell yeah. But then you get there, and like the whole section, Ellie's just muttering to herself like she's like a single-minded, one-topic, huskless human being.
Yep.
And I was so, like, I felt like I should have been more engaged. Like, the location is beautiful and doesn't look like anything you've ever seen in the series. You're going around, and like the enemy faction there is like supremely fucked up and interesting in its own way. But the game doesn't really focus on them. Like, you just kind of barrel through this estate, and you just keep going like, Abby, 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 go to find Abby. And to me, it was just really interesting. Because, like, I should have been so engaged, but I feel like the game wanted me to not be in a way of, like...
You feel like the game didn't want you to be engaged.
Yes, and on purpose. Not so much that it was, like, holding back any interesting environment design or layout or anything like that, because I think that was still very good. But I felt like the reading I got from it was, like, immediately, like, Ellie made a huge mistake. This is a stark reminder that no matter where you go in this world now, everyone's got a different name for it, but everyone's terrible. There's infected everywhere, and no matter where you go, it's just god-awful. So why the fuck didn't you stay at your farmhouse? Because you go, and like all the stuff that should be interesting just feels like white noise. At least it did to me. And I was going through, and like you get to the end, and like you can kill or you try to kill Abby, but you get that flashback of Joel, which you can either look at as she remembered, you know, Joel and a promise and decided not to kill her, or you remember that, like, you know, it's just not worth it. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out there's fireworks or something, so I completely lost my train of thought. But I feel like the game was trying to even say a little bit, like, this was a bad choice for this character. None of this matters. None of this should matter. They should have stayed where they were. Now they're here. They shouldn't be here. They're getting fucked up along the way, all the way through here. Mistakes were made. And then you get to the end and you're left with nothing. And it felt like the game being like, yeah, no, you shouldn't have done this, Ellie. We made you do it, but you shouldn't have done it, you dumbass. Now you have nothing. Then she just walks off into the background. I lost my phrasing throughout that, but to me, that's the takeaway I had was a very meta, like, you want this game to end. There's like another 3 hours. Go fuck yourself.
I mean, I felt that frustration for sure, because like when you're at the farmhouse, you feel like, oh, this has to be the end, and then it's not, and you're like, well, fucking course it's not. So I get that totally, but yeah, this game would be better as a TV series.
Hey, good thing they're making one.
Yeah, good thing they're making one. So yeah, I totally understand that frustration, but I didn't feel like that wore off for me, like within the first 30 minutes when I was in Santa Barbara. I was like, what? Yeah, whatever. There's just more game. And so I'm still playing, and you're talking about how you're confused about how her flashback of Joel made her stop.
More like forgetting that you can look at it two ways and forgetting how to word it. Because like you can look at it as either like her remembering the I don't have the wording, sorry.
Maybe
I'm not confused as to why it happened. I'm just saying I forget the two ways I thought of that you could look at it, because I lost my train of thought completely.
Well, yeah,
it's not easy being dumb.
It's weird because, okay, I think I understand your frustrations, because her motivation for 99% of the game is to avenge Joel. And then when she finally has it in her hands, why doesn't she follow through? I think it's because of she probably wasn't able to do it the whole time. She actually never really had an opportunity to. Oh, well, yes, there is. When you're playing as Abby, you do fight Ellie, and Ellie is literally trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess her motivation is strange at the end. Like, why doesn't she follow through?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm glad she did, because she will never know peace until she has a change of heart, and she did have a change of heart, so I'm glad she did. It's just kind of unclear why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is an argument I've read online that like the whole way through the game, though, Ellie is kind of faking it. Like she's kind of implementing stuff that she learned from Joel. Oh, okay, that's it. Yeah, because like at the end, she thinks of Joel and is like, "Do I want to become like Joel?" And like give up, and make a similarly terrible choice just for the sake of one person's life, kind of thing.
Right.
Because like the whole way through, she doesn't ever seem too sure about what she's doing. She always seems a little out of her element. Like she isn't that terrible killer, though she's trying to be. And she's kind of accidentally following Joel's steps throughout the game.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Like even at the start of the game, she's with Dina and they find where Tommy tortured 2 people. And she's like, I don't think I could ever fucking do that. Then like 20 hours later, she's shooting a fucking pregnant woman.
She didn't know she was pregnant.
She didn't know at the time, but that happens in this game, which I kind of forget about sometimes because Jesus Christ.
I think you can see Ellie struggling with herself throughout the whole story. So like she's being this person, but I don't think she's really prepared to be that person.
Yeah. So I think like one way you can read that final confrontation is like she thought of Joel and was like, that just finally clicked for her. Like, I can't be that.
I think so. I think that's what's happening because you see her struggling to be like this hard ass, but when she finally has the opportunity to be that, like to solidify that in her head as this is who I am, she doesn't do it. And she probably just comes to terms with this isn't who I am, this isn't what I want. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. What else can be said?
I have a big question for you.
What's up?
One thing I think is cool about this game is that I think there's a lot to talk about. Like, this isn't a story that just happens and you go, oh, that was fine. Like, I think there's a lot you can read into at certain points. But the main thing, at the end of the game, Ellie puts down Joel's guitar and leaves everything in that room and just walks off. Where do you think she goes?
I don't think she goes back to Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I think she leaves. I think she's leaving everything behind. She's just, I don't know, she's going somewhere new. Wait, where do you think she's going?
I agree with you completely. I viewed leaving that room and everything in it, like not even taking a thing from that room, as very symbolic of either I need to leave this behind me because of who I've become, or I won't be accepted if I try to go back to this life. So I need to just forge on and fucking go wherever and do whatever. Whatever an Ellie does. I don't think she goes back to Jackson and tries to make amends with Dina or Tommy or anyone. I think she just completely leaves all of that and goes somewhere else.
No. Yeah.
Maybe dies like a week later in the woods. Who knows? But I've seen some people read that she left that there because she's going to go try to bring Dina back. And I was like,
no.
That's a hopeful reading of the ending, and I can't blame you for wanting that. But that's not the feeling I got when playing that.
No, because if we're going with this theory that she didn't kill Abby because she doesn't want to be like Joel, then that means she wouldn't try to go beg for Dina to take her back because that's all Joel did for the rest of his remaining days.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she would do that.
I don't either. By the way, I'd just like it stated on a record that the line, I don't think I can ever forgive you, but I'd like to try.
So good.
I got chills. That was like such a powerful line. It's like, I didn't think I cared about these characters, but now that I'm here, whew. Well, before going into the second game, I didn't really care that much about those characters, but that line is just like, Jesus, that's a very simple and very powerful line. God. And that's why I'm kind of worried I want to go back and play the game again to kind of see some stuff and, get the trophies because I almost have them all and I have no life. But going back to the beginning of this game, knowing that like they were on the precipice of trying to make up after Ellie found out what Joel did is like, I don't know if I can handle that as well with that knowledge.
No. No, it's easier than you think.
Okay, good.
Damn, I had something, now it's gone. I have the cordyceps.
God. Yeah, Steven got cordyceps swabbed.
Yeah, I got swabbed for cordyceps. We'll figure out if I have cordyceps later.
Stefan, do you have any The Last of Us Part 2 questions?
I mean, just from listening to what you guys said, I can kind of I can kind of piece together like what kind of story thing it is, because like I played a little bit of the first Last of Us, then it was just kind of a thing of just it's more so time and energy thing. I'm like, oh, this looks good. I kind of want to play it. It's just I never got in the mood to it, so I just kind of like watched and like read about what is Last of Us about, and I was like, oh, okay. That looks like it's kind of thing of like, oh, it's something that if I probably sat my ass down to go through it, I probably would like enjoy it in like the same way I enjoyed the Uncharted games, so to speak. Yeah, it's just like a thing of like, oh, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's a thing of like, oh, it looks like something like like everything that you said, like it seems like that kind of like interesting type of very dark and brooding type of story of just being like, this is how like everything is bad, and is just kind of showing like how do you deal with everything in such a absolutely terrible world where like pretty much the only way to survive is to do terrible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about the combat? I know it feels like we were about to get to an ending point, but I just remembered the combat is way better in this game than the first game.
Hey man, that's just fitting for the game we're talking about. You think it's over, and then oops, it's more. I thought this game was immensely more mechanically engaging and therefore fun to play. Fun in air quotes because it's a miserable game, but in a like engaging, interesting way. I felt between the enemy AI and the simple movement additions they made that it's really easy to rag on. We added a jump button, but things like that and being able to climb like through little gaps and stuff like that and kind of snake your way through these combat environments they made, I loved it quite a bit. Like when this year is over, I'll look back and this will probably be my favorite game I played due to the gameplay. Steven, it's the suburban environment right before you find Jesse in the game, where they first kind of start introducing the dogs that track your scent.
Yep.
That was probably the most tense I've ever felt playing a game, because I was just so immersed and just enraptured by all the enemies, because man, there's a lot of enemies in that sequence.
Yes, there are.
But just like every time I thought I was cornered, I could like desperately look around and find 2 or 3 different ways to get out of the situation and get back to a place of cover, and then reassess the situation and get back to work on like picking off people and trying to get through it. And the ebb and flow of I'm assessing the situation, I'm taking out people, oh shit, I'm caught, I'm getting away, holy shit, this is going bad, okay, I'm safe, rinse and repeat. Combined with it's hard to quantify, but the enemy AI is just so much better in this game. It's still kind of dumb sometimes, like especially when you're going out of cover and approaching someone and they see you the whole time and you can still stealth kill them. It's kind of dumb in ways like that.
Yeah.
But it was the thing where like even when I felt the game was kind of dragging narratively or just going on too long, I was still having a fucking blast every minute of it, pretty much just playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's like a definite improvement. Like, it's kind of hard to even think about going back to play the first game after this one, because I know there's so much I'm going to miss from this game that I'm going to be like, oh, I can't crawl, I can't do little hops.
Yeah, it's like when you go back to Sonic 1 and you can't spin dash.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Oh no, I can't spin dash.
Yeah. And then you play as the daughter of the gun commander in the second part.
Exactly.
See that joke worked this time.
The graphics are absolutely incredible. Sometimes when I was watching it, I was like, this doesn't look that good. Like, and then I remembered, oh wait, this is all running live on a PS4. This looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like none of it is pre-rendered.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous in that aspect.
Yeah. I guess we should qualify when you give a lot of the top talent in the world what's effectively a blank check, of course it's going to look good, but even so, man, holy shit. Like, even there, I had those times too where I was looking at it, I was like, this part doesn't look so hot. But then I start looking at all the incredibly small details that people probably missed birthdays for. I was like, man, it's really impressive stuff. Like, all the kitchens feel like real kitchens, like the houses feel realistically designed. On top of that, all the little graphical touches, like, I swear there's a part of this game where like light is shining through a cracked wall or roof, and you only see the lighting result of that for the specific scene for like 3 seconds as you walk through it, but like the light is like realistically shining through the building, and you walk through it and everything, you know, convincingly washes over whoever you're playing as, and then you keep on walking and then you don't think about it again. That was just one of those times where I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I think that was in like the aquarium portion with the guy who I want to like but I find very annoying, Owen. Yeah, but yeah, it's the little things like that where it's just like, Jesus.
Yeah, I think this game broke my PS4. Like, my PS4 was jet engineing almost the entire way through the game. Yeah, it was
that was part of my reason for putting on headphones. It was like, this way I can't hear my PS4
dying. Yeah, because the second time I played The Last of Us, comparatively has not been as impressive. I've been experiencing a lot of glitches. Like, It's like once I got on my horse and it didn't even animate while I went across the plane. It was just so that
sounds like an improvement.
Right. So yeah, the first time I played it, no glitches at all. Second time, a whole lot. So I think it killed my PS4. Yeah.
It's basically the second time you played through, they stopped sucking in air and let the gut hang out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the only bug I had my first playthrough, there was like one time with Dina where I got on the horse, Shimmer, and like Ellie was sitting there and Dina's character model just morphed into Ellie's. Like, they just like didn't even exist. Like, they were both trying to sit in the same spot on the horse basically. And I was like, oh, that's really weird looking. But I think that was literally the only thing I saw the entire way through, which
I know what Ellie's scalp looks like. Her hair like didn't load for like the section where you're like underwater, like right after you and Jesse part. Like, yeah, her hair was gone for the entire combat scenario. So she has like this black spray painted mat on her scalp.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so now you know.
I think your PS4 is actually dying then.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess in closing, it's a shame that this game got stuck in a situation where you can only feel that it's talked about as if it's either the best or worst thing in the world, because it is neither of those things. I think it is a very good experience with a lot that can be critiqued, but I think it's very good in spite of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very interesting game that merits very interesting discussion, and it's just difficult to have those discussions with people you aren't already intimately connected with, I guess is probably the way to put it. Or at least trying to talk over Twitter is never a good idea in the first place, but maybe you don't talk about this game online for a while, just to save yourself some sanity.
Yep. Yeah. God, so many people judging something that they've never even tried.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I saw so many people just talking shit about this game. I'm like, but did you play it?
Yeah, did you at least watch it on YouTube, or did you just read the spoiler and go, eh? Because I can't think of any story that's ever been told well through like one sentence text summaries at a time. You know, like that 4chan leak that was also inaccurate, but that was like where most of this came from. I went back and read that. I was like, no wonder people thought this sounded terrible. Like, A, some of it's wrong, but B, it's like being intentionally painted in a worse light than it is. So like, of course it's going to sound bad.
Yeah, because I remember one of the biggest things that people were complaining about from those early leaks was that they were mentioning like that there was a lot of queer baiting, so to speak, and everything I've heard, like once the game came out, it's like, there isn't queer baiting.
Yep. Like
I think it was mentioned that her girlfriend dies like at the very beginning, but I guess that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One spoiler that I'm happy was not true. I read it and I was like, fuck, I don't want to know about that. That sounds stupid. That sounds bad. Is that apparently, like, some spoiler had mentioned something about Ellie's mom having never died and came back and, like, did something horrible, like something completely out of character. Like, people were, like, saying, I can't believe Ellie's mom would be that way. And, like, no! But no, she's not even in this game.
Not even alluded to once, I think.
Yep.
I literally don't think they ever touch the topic of Ellie's parents in this series, aside from maybe in the first game, them being like, where are her parents? Oh, well.
Actually, in the DLC of the first game, her and her first girlfriend, I don't remember her name. Whoops. They talk about it.
Yeah. So, would you give this game the movies I played it seal of approval?
Absolutely.
I played that game.
Yeah. I'm struggling between giving it an 8 or a 9. I can't make up my mind if it's an 8 or a 9. Really, really good game.
I think a good way to is, how would you rank it among the other Naughty Dog games?
I couldn't compare this game against, like, even Uncharted.
Yeah.
To me, it's just such a different experience. Like, I'm more of an Uncharted guy, honestly, but, like, no Uncharted has ever, like, made me think or sweat in the ways this game did. So, yeah, it's hard to say. But I guess the closing remark I would give is that I'll probably be thinking about this game for quite some time, which, for better or worse, is a pretty good thing for something you engaged with for 30 hours to do. Because at worst, this could have been another game where Joel and Ellie fuck around for a while, and then it ends, and you go, oh, that was cool. And then, like, a week later, you're like, what was that? I don't remember anything about it. Right. So at worst, it's something that merits a lot of cool talking. Yeah. And
go cool play it and do some cool talking, gamers.
Make your own podcast with your friends instead of tweeting about Sonic Adventure 3. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Now for 7 years for Last of Us Part 3, and then 7 years later for The Fast of Us.
Oh. God. Yeah, I guess that's something I meant to ask. One last thing now that I closed the video. Steven, do you want a part 3?
Review won't end?
Do you want a part 3?
Do I want a part 3? Okay. Yes and no. Yes, because I want to explore this world more. Because part 2 brought up some interesting questions. And so I'm like, oh yeah, how do people deal with that? But we didn't really, like, dive into it. So I want to see some more of those, but I don't think that I need to see Joel or Ellie or any of the previous characters. Like, if it's a different set of characters, but exploring new things, then yes, I would love a 3. But that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing left to tell with Ellie and Joel. That story is done.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some people saying they want a Toll, I combined their names, Jesus. Joel and Tommy early years game where they go through the early part of it, and I'm like,
no.
I'd rather see, like, different time, different place, different cast kind of characters. Like, how are other countries dealing with this infection? That's something I've thought about.
No, America's the only country.
That's true.
Don't you watch Hollywood?
Don't you watch Hollywood?
I subscribe to Hollywood.
Make sure to ring the bell for more Hollywood.